In 2023, a young mother in France took her son and his father on what was supposed to be a quiet visit to a cemetery, something she did every month without fail. But this time, something was different. Within minutes of stepping into the oldest section of the graveyard, all three of them felt it. And one of them saw her. They didn't know it yet, but they had just walked straight into the territory of something far more disturbing than they could have imagined. This is the story of Charlene. She's 24 years old, and what she experienced, it still haunts her to this day. 2 years ago, Charlene lost someone she used to be very close to, an ex-boyfriend. He took his own life. Ever since that day, like clockwork, once a month, she visits his grave and leaves a single red rose. This story takes place during one of those visits, but this time, she wasn't alone. She brought her young son, and the father of her son came along too. Now, there's something you should know about this cemetery. It's divided into 2 parts. The new section, where her ex is buried, and the old section. The really old section. And for some reason, Charlene has always been drawn to those old graves. She says she loves looking at the headstones, reading the dates people were born, the names they had, trying to imagine what their lives were like. Creepy to some, but to her, it's peaceful. So after paying her respects at her ex's grave, she turned to her son and his father and asked, "Want to check out the old cemetery with me for a bit?" They agreed, but the moment they stepped into the older part of the graveyard, the vibe shifted. Fast. Charlene said it felt like the air itself got heavier. Her son's dad stopped walking and looked around nervously. He told her he felt off, like the place was closing in on him. Charlene felt it too, not just heavy. She said it felt like they were being watched. After about 10 minutes, they decided to leave. They just couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. But here's where it gets really weird. As soon as they stepped over the dividing wall between the old and new cemeteries, that oppressive feeling, gone. Just like that. Back to normal. Now they're back at the car, and as they're getting in, the father of her son turns to her and says something that completely rattles her. He goes, "Hey, I didn't want to say this while we were still in there, but I saw someone. In the old cemetery. A woman. She was wearing this long, purple, old-fashioned dress, and one of those hats with the black veil covering her face." Charlene just stares at him, frozen. Because here's the thing. He doesn't believe in anything paranormal. Not ghosts, not spirits, nothing. He's a total skeptic. So for him to say something like that, it had to be real. And that's when it hits her. A month earlier, when she had visited that same cemetery, this time with her best friend who happens to be clairvoyant. Her friend told her something strange. She said she sensed a woman in the old part of the graveyard. A woman who radiated hate. Something dark and malicious. Charlene suddenly grabs her phone and calls her friend. When she picks up, Charlene asks, "That woman you saw last time, what was she wearing?" Her friend goes quiet for a second, then says, "I think she was wearing a long purple dress, old-fashioned, and a hat with one of those black veils that cover the face." Charlene says in that moment, her whole body went cold. She got chills that ran all the way from her neck to the base of her skull. That's when her friend tells her the full story. That woman, she was real. When she was alive, she was pure evil. According to legend, she was executed by hanging for murdering multiple children. Her spirit apparently still lingers in the old cemetery. And her friend warned her, "Whatever you do, don't bring your son there again. This spirit," she said, "hates children. and if she gets the chance, she might try to hurt him. Still on the phone, her friend asked, "Hey, your son, has he been acting strange? Like sad, angry, scared?" Charlene looked over at him. He seemed fine, happy even. So she felt a little bit of relief, but made herself a silent promise. She would never, ever take her son into that old cemetery again. And as for her, she'd think twice before setting foot in there herself. And that brings us to the end of today's story. I hope you enjoyed it and that it sent chills down your spine. If you did, don't forget to like the video and show your support by subscribing to the channel. And hey, don't keep the scare to yourself. Share this story with your friends so they can experience it too. Your support helps us bring you more terrifying tales like this one. Thank you for sticking around till the end. I'm Phobia, and I'll see you in the next story.